We have a presentation by one of our new city attorneys here, David Nam, and it's on the Proposition 64, the Adult Use of Marijuana Act.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, honorable members of the council, staff, and public. My name is David Nam, and I am here tonight to present a update on the upcoming election ballot measure, Proposition 64, also known as the Adult Use of Marijuana Act.
You can pull that microphone towards you if you want to.
Thank you.
You go.
I would like to start my presentation by first thanking the city attorney and the assistant city attorney for their help and guidance in putting together this project. Before getting to the AUMA, I thought it would be helpful to provide a brief overview of the current state laws and local laws on the use of marijuana. The first law to pass was the Compassionate Use Act, which passed in 1996, and it permits the patients and defined caregivers to possess and or cultivate marijuana for physician-recommended treatment. The next law to pass in California was the Medical Marijuana Program Act in 2003, which instituted the medical marijuana ID card system. Moreover, it permitted marijuana cooperatives and collectives for the cultivation of marijuana. The MMPA was followed by the Medical Marijuana Regulation and Safety Act in 2015. The MMRSA establishes the Bureau of Medical Marijuana Regulation, which is a state regulatory agency that oversees the licensing of medical marijuana growers, manufacturers, and retailers. Recently, the MMRSA was joined by the Medical Cannabis Regulation and Safety Act in June of 2016, and the MCRSA authorizes the following commercial medical marijuana activities: cultivation, manufacture, inspection and testing, transportation to a point of sale, and sales to a patient either through a fixed or mobile dispensary. The MCRSA also exempts personal use and cultivation from licensing requirements, or that is to say, it actually leaves it up to local agencies to regulate. Here in Vacaville, such activities are banned. As provided under VMC 9.13, all commercial and non-commercial activities are prohibited. All cultivation, dispensaries, and deliveries are also prohibited, as well as all activities that require a state license. Although there are no criminal penalties associated with the violation of Chapter 9.13, there are civil penalties. So those are the current state of laws in California and Vacaville regarding marijuana use, which brings us to the AUMA. The current version of the AUMA is the third time California is attempting to legalize recreational marijuana. The first time was in 1972, second time was in 2010, and now on November 8, 2016, California will join Arizona, Nevada, Maine, and Massachusetts to decide if they're going to join Alaska, Colorado, Oregon, Washington, and Washington, D.C. in legalizing recreational marijuana. If the AUMA passes, certain provisions will go into effect immediately, namely the personal use and cultivation. Commercial activities will have to wait about a year and 2 months, because that's how long it's going to take the state to actually get state licensing ready to roll out, or at least that's what they're saying it might take. So the things we can expect if the AUMA passes are for persons that are 21 years and older. They can cultivate up to 6 plants indoors for personal use, and they can possess up to 28.5 grams of cannabis plant material and 8 grams of concentrated cannabis products. For local jurisdictions, the AUMA does allow local jurisdictions to prohibit any type of business licensed under the AUMA. It does allow local jurisdictions to prohibit outdoor cultivation, including cultivations on private residences. That is to say, the outdoor cultivation on private residences. So private residences are defined as house, apartment, mobile home and so forth. There's a little weird provision in there that says until the California Attorney General says that the law is now federally okay, then we do have to allow outdoor cultivation at that point. The AUMA also allows local jurisdictions to prohibit public consumption, impaired driving, and dispensaries. The one thing that local jurisdictions must allow is transportation through its jurisdiction by licensed businesses. The AUMA also permits local jurisdictions to limit the number of indoor plants that are grown, including in accessory structures like a greenhouse, but it cannot ban the indoor cultivation of plants. Local jurisdictions can impose any tax on facilities that are cultivating, manufacturing, processing, selling, distributing, providing, storing, or donating marijuana. And it can also inspect any place where marijuana is sold, cultivated, stored, to assure taxes are collected. What is unclear through the AUMA at the moment is whether or not local jurisdictions can limit the cultivation to only accessory structures, whether they can prohibit deliveries within its jurisdiction, and whether it can impose use tax on consumers. The effect that AUMA will have if it passes on the VMC is that it will require an amendment allowing for indoor cultivation, and the AUMA does allow the city to adopt reasonable regulations for allowed uses and cultivations. So this city can adopt a regulation regulating the size of a cultivation area or the cultivation structure, maximum wattage within a cultivation site, prohibiting gas products that are often used in extractions for concentrated marijuana products, requiring a permit, and regulating nuisances. So because of the effects that the AUMA will have on the city as soon as it passes, the city has initiated procedures for amending its substance abuse policy to treat marijuana consumption the same as alcohol consumption. The Human Resources Department and the City Attorney's Office have been working together to make sure that it has policies and procedures in place for testing and impairment at the workplace. So that's what the AUMA provides. And looking at some of our sister states that have already legalized recreational marijuana, we can also see what might come down for California as well. One of the things that Washington and Colorado have seen is a rise in impaired driving. And so as you can see, for Colorado around 2009, when they commercialized medical marijuana, there was a rise in impaired driving, and as well as in around 2013 when they legalized for recreational marijuana. And for Washington, same trend. In 2012, they legalized it for medical marijuana, and then around 2014, when they legalized it for recreational marijuana, there was a rise in impaired driving. I'm sure there are other effects as well, but these are just some of the things I think Californians can expect to see if the AUMA does in fact pass. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions the council might have.
Councilwoman Harris.
So I have a question in regards to, and this isn't, because I know we don't allow this stuff in Vacaville, but any of the dispensaries and, I guess dispensaries, they can't put their money in a bank, right?
So my understanding is currently right now, because it is illegal federally, banking regulations have not really come around. In Washington, very few retail banks were involved. The first ones to get involved were, I think it was a small a credit union, and even then they were very hesitant to get involved. It was all cash transactions. They don't give out loans. They didn't give out any credit cards. The first one didn't even give out a debit card. So I think they were allowing money to come in, but they weren't really sure what to do with it.
Right. So do we have any statistics on how that impacted local law enforcement in terms of, theft, robberies, that type
The
of thing?
statistics coming from Washington and Colorado during the periods of legalization do show there was an upward trend in crime, violent crime, as well as property theft. I don't know whether that translates to theft of money or if it was theft of other property.
But there's been an increase since legalization that they can pinpoint to the time of legalization.
That is what the sources showed from my research. Whether or not that was directly attributed to legalization of marijuana is debated among people, but that there is a rise in crime is not debated among people. It's really more about what is the cause of it.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Hunt.
Yeah, I think it's great that you came tonight because the polling supports that this is likely to pass. I had a little concern and I had a question about the timing. You mentioned that the day it passes, the very next day, it becomes legal for them to for themselves to have it. Then there's going to be a time for the commercialization to come, and there'll be some clarifications for the dispensaries and that. But the day it passes, then it becomes legal as a recreational drug for people to have. And you may recall about 6 months ago, our council wrestled with the cultivation issue. And the decision was whether 6 plants, for yourself, or hey, I've got 6, he's got 6, he's got 6, he's got 6, you got 30 plants in one house. Would we, or according to you, we'd be allowed to continue saying you could have no more than 6 plants in one house, regardless of how many people live there? That was my interpretation.
Actually, the AUMA is pretty clear that only 6 plants to a household, and I apologize if I did not make that clear.
Good.
The AUMA is clear on that. They do limit it to a personal residence. And so regardless of whether there's 4 adults or 1 adult, it's actually just 6 plants to that household.
The other unclarity is that you have to allow transportation for a licensed business owner through that, but you don't have to allow deliveries. Is that, if the council chose to, we wouldn't you would not be able to call up, say Vallejo, that they're going to allow it. Hey, I need you to drop it off, because I think once this passes, it's going to be like a pizza thing. You're going to order it and it's going to come, and I think this could have potential for a lot of delivery service. Do we have to allow deliveries?
So the league's position has been that deliveries are, it can be prohibited. Of course, there are others that dispute that. Unfortunately, the AUMA is not entirely clear. It doesn't state it as in deliveries can be prohibited. What it does say is that local jurisdictions can prohibit all businesses that are licensed under the AUMA within this jurisdiction. And then what it supplement to that says that it has to permit transportation through its jurisdiction. So unfortunately, at this point in time, there may not be a definitive answer other than to say the league's position is it's not.
Well, that's going to be kind of a nightmare, because the guy just says, I'm transporting it, I'm not delivering it. I mean, from a law enforcement perspective, I don't know how you're going to differentiate between somebody who's transporting it and somebody who's delivering it, and I think it's going to be pretty interesting. So, well, we'll see.
I don't see any other lights. I appreciate the briefing on this item. Thank you, Dave.